Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. And this week, we have breaking news. And as far as breaking news, we just got back from Dragonsteel Nexus. So we
Woo!
just kind of wanted to do a general, just overview of what all we did, how it went, very informal. But yeah, Irving, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to get us rolling.
Yeah. Well, you got there first. Maybe you should start. But
I mean,
we
I
we went
can.
to Nexus. We went to Nexus. We met up with everyone from Shard of Opportunity. We met each other for the first time. That was super cool. I had a hell of a time getting there.
Both did.
Worst flight out of Detroit in my life.
But mine got delayed, and then they moved my flights, and then they refixed my flights. It was a whole disaster. And then
Oh
the
yeah.
Marriott also checked me in 3 days early and changed my reservation, so that was fun too. They did fix it. Shout out Marriott Bonvoy. But yeah,
Yeah. But as for the con, and like particularly Cosmere RPG focused thing, it was really cool to see how psyched people were just about it. I feel like every RPG thing was pretty busy and people were at least interested. We both GM'd. Uh, and while like people who signed up may not have shown up all the time, the tables were full. People like walk-ins showed up.
yeah. I mean, we were each running 6 people deep every session.
I
Um,
kept my first session to 5 just to because I was
oh, okay,
nervous.
gotcha. Well, good lord, you were nervous.
Yeah,
Um,
I was nervous, man. Are you kidding me? People
oh,
wanted
that's
to be there.
I know, right? That is true. And it was interesting because, so I ran for Brotherwise at Gen Con, and at Gen Con, it was very much TTRPG players with a mix of Cosmere knowledge, but everyone had played a TTRPG before. So when I was like, we roll a d20, we do a skill test, they knew exactly what this meant. Nexus, total opposite.
Opposite. Yeah.
Yep.
I
Everybody knew
had
everything about the Cosmere, nothing about TTRPGs for the most part.
yeah, I think I had, so what? I only did speak the words once. I did the adventure we'll talk about in a second here twice. So I had 5, 6 plus 12. So that's 11 plus 12. I had 23 people, and I think 5 of them, maybe 6, had been TTRPG players before really showing up, or like that was like a hobby of theirs.
Yeah, I would say on average I would have 1 to 2 people per session. I will say my session about the game we'll talk about in a minute, that one I had the most, which was good for me. Because I had to do well, I mean, let's go ahead and get into it. So
Yeah.
like
So
so
the
I got
adventures that were there, we had Speak the Words, which is a Stormlight. You're level 3. The
mhm.
focus is 2 of the characters are going to say the first ideal of the Knights Radiant. That's one adventure. The second adventure, Kyle.
It was Pedal to the Metals, which is a level 2, or were they level 3? Now I'm already blanking
Uh,
out.
I don't remember what level they were, but was it
I want to say it was
pedals
level
to the metal or pedal to the metals?
I
Which
think
one
it's
is it? Oh, it's
pedal
the
to
plural.
I think it's pedal to the metals. But now I'm not 1,000% sure.
I have no
uh,
idea.
but yeah, it was. And this was public info because it was absolutely listed. So like nothing weird there.
Yep, we're
Um,
not in trouble for saying what it was.
but it was a Mistborn adventure.
Yeah.
So it was a Mistborn Air 2 adventure. We won't give spoilers because if this becomes like something that they run at conventions, because this is now 2 conventions that was ran. It was also ran at Gen Con. So if you get a chance to play it, we don't want to spoil it for you. But yeah, people were really excited to get to try out their first look at the Mistborn RPG. Um,
Yeah, and I don't think there's a better setting than Era 2 to do a look at Mistborn as it's different from Roshar, just because, like, you got guns, you got Farukami, you have, or Fairings, you have Mistings, you have Twinborn. I don't think actually there were any Twinborn in the.
yeah, I don't remember, but you do have cars.
You have
But
Cars,
yeah,
you have Kolos Blooded.
yeah, I mean, and for me, even as an Era 1 stand, like Era 1 is my favorite one to read in.
You're
I
wrong.
will say playing in Era 2 was a blast. So at Gen Con, I only ran Speak the Word, so this was my first time running that as well. And yeah, like it was a real good time. And then I also ran the Epic Stormlight game, which was a 400 person game that took place during one of the Lost Desolations.
Now,
Uh,
you were not the only GM. There were, it
oh
was
no, there were
400
like
people.
60 of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was 60. They were saying 60. I don't feel like there were 60 tables, but I could be wrong. There actually that there might have been, because I think there was about 20 per. There were 3 groups, and I think there were 20 per group. So yeah, we had over 60 GMs, over 400 players, all playing at the same time, which was nuts.
That's cool, man. That's exciting. What did you think of that experience?
So that experience was a lot of fun. Like the energy in the room was good. Like it was just because we had one guy who was basically like role playing the general that was giving out all the orders, and then you would go out and run your adventures. And like it was so much fun just being in a group. The cool thing was like most of the people at my table were pretty new to everything. I had a few people that had played D&D, that was it. So I thought it was good to get to teach. We didn't have to follow the rules necessarily. Like it was, I prefaced every single session I ran with like, "Hey, we're at a con. We're here to have fun, and we're short on time. Rules lawyer, I will not be. Rule of cool is going to rule the day." But yeah, like they released some of the info about that. It was a level 8 adventure. Everybody played a third ideal radiant, so shard blades were flying, surges were being used. We fought thunderclast. It was awesome. Yeah, we
That's
had a
dope.
really good time.
Well, that's cool, man. I ran pedals twice. I like I like Era 2. It's one of my favorite like settings for Sanderson. I actually like it more 1. Uh and I think for an RPG it really provides a unique setting. You know, it's not steampunk where or like magic steampunk where everything's like arcane technology that doesn't have a reason. The magic kind of exists separately from technology, and you're in this cool world where like magic once was superior and now technology is catching up, and that's a really cool place to be in, especially in a game that doesn't force you to take part in the magic system.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that made my players feel very comfortable when I ran pedals, because it was very like they were able to just enjoy the game. If they didn't want to lean into the magic, they didn't have to. They could just shoot guns. Like we had one person who literally was doing the Danny DeVito meme, and every time he walked in, he just started blasting, um, which was perfectly fine. Yeah, I think a lot of people were really impressed and really had a lot of good time playing it. I thought it was a really good entry level adventure. I just don't know how much we can really spoil the story. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, I absolutely not going to spoil the story.
yeah. Speak the Words though is a published adventure. It's been out there. Um, you know, I hadn't got to GM a lot for people speaking the ideals, because a lot of my experience was running like Bridge 9, the early parts of Stonewalkers, stuff like that. So I want to ask, like, how did your players feel, and how did they react the first time someone got to speak the words?
Uh, I don't know if I was more excited or they were.
Right.
I had a couple people because I made sure that both people spoke the words. I wanted to have, like, regardless of what mission they chose, I wanted them to have a cool moment. And they actually, my first group did something unexpected with the story, uh, and I kind of rewarded that. But yeah, I think they were like super excited.
Yeah.
Just and then like the game makes you very powerful when you say the words. Like you have advantage on all your rolls for the whole scene. You constantly refill with investiture, even if you can't do a ton with it yet. And it was just really fun.
Yeah, I had every single time someone spoke the words, you would see someone finish saying it, and they would like rub their arms because they had goosebumps. So especially in a room full and a table full of Sanderson fans, like it just hit home so well. And they had so much fun. Like I don't know, man. It's the part that I'm gonna struggle with Mistborn, because like just there's nothing to me that hits home more than when you speak those ideals, and it just feels awesome.
Yeah,
um,
it certainly does. I agree with that.
so I'll have to figure out like how Mistborn will feel different than that. But man, like, I don't know. I have such a connection to that adventure. Like, I feel like Speak the Words is like a perfect little intro adventure because it literally has all three scene types that we've talked about. Like, it's just an easy way to, whoever wrote that adventure, I don't remember her name, and I feel bad. I might look it up at some point. But like, I got to meet her at Gen Con too, which is why I feel even more bad about it. But like, it's just the perfect con adventure because you can do it in like an hour and a half to an hour 45
Yeah,
minutes.
I was about to say
I
it's a tight hour and 45. It is. It's very fun.
and I did the same thing. I had both characters speak the words one way or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what else? You got to go to the Brotherwise panel.
Yeah, yeah. So on the was it? I think it was Saturday.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was the last day because it was while I was running Speak the Words.
it's so weird that Saturday's the last day.
Yeah.
Uh, I went to the Brotherwise panel where they talked about a whole slew of Cosmere games, but here we are primarily focused on the RPG. So I took notes of like exciting things we saw, and I guess I will sort of break down those notes if we're
Yeah.
okay with that.
I'm totally
Uh,
fine with that because that's all public info.
Yeah, yeah, they've published on their socials, so a lot of people might have seen this stuff. Some of it might not have fully made it, but like I took pictures of the slides, so I have
Nice.
it. 2020, 2026 sort of seems to be a year of Mistborn. They have expansion for the deck builder, obviously the RPG setting, uh, and we're gonna get into the RPG. So sometimes heroic paths are gonna have two new subpaths, sometimes just one, and there's even like text that like, hey, maybe this path is more of an Era 2 path, and that's very clear with our example in the Warrior, where the new paths are the Gunslinger and the Brawler. Gunslinger, exactly what it says on the tin, and Brawler is more about like an up close, like melee punching style. Uh, we also got to see the new trees for the Hunter, which are Sharpshooter, which is supposed to be that sniper fantasy, and then the Haze Killer. Haze Killer looks really sweet. I'm excited to do a deep dive into what's going on there. We also got some art presented by Johnny, who is I believe he's the creative or like the art director for both Stormlight and Mistborn. Or is he just the art director for Mistborn?
I think he's just the art director for Mistborn because Katie Payne was the art director of Stormlight.
Yeah, and so like we got new lore about the Koloss blooded, how they have these sort of like cultural affinity for wrappings on their like arms and stuff. That's where like old Koloss would have had open wounds. The wrappings are like to show them sort of paying homage to that and hiding it, but they also use it as a form of like jewelry essentially, where like sometimes there'll be like text on the wrappings or they'll be like gilded in some way, and that's just a really cool and informed way to look at their society. There's a misting path they showed, so it looks like you will have a sort of generic path for being a misting, and then you also have a path for your metal. So they showed us misting path and tin allomancy as two separate things. So it'll be interesting how many talents that requires. It's kind of like how you have paths for your surges in addition to your radiant bond.
That makes
Um,
sense.
there's going to be a Mistborn world guide spread out, and there was a spread about Era 1 that was shown off. Something I'm very excited for, there's a History of Scadrial chapter that had some like new lore about different areas of the world. For example, the Terrace Dominance, which there's some deeply messed up stuff going on in the Terrace Dominance, and in Era 1 in particular, I guess it doesn't really exist in Era 2, and they wanted to show it like as the bad thing that's going on from the Empire perspective, but also, these are people persevering, and there's they tried to make sure they took care to show and talk about the Terrace people in that time. Something I sort of gathered from the panel just in general is that a lot of times stories from their internal playtests make it into the art that goes into the book. And you kind of see that, the sort of like mock-up party in the Stormlight book. And I just really enjoy that because it adds depth to the world and feels like other people are exploring it and it's not just a like pastiche for you and you alone.
For sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that idea that they throw that in there. Yeah, because I remember, I want to say one of the 17th Shard episodes they did on the CosmereRPG. Some of them were actually in that internal playtest that the artist then drew their characters, so they got to actually see their characters in the world guide. But it's the art piece I always go back to is like for the Stormlight handbook. It's they're like in an alley looking at a map, and you've got like clearly an Ungalaki and then like a Thalen merchant, and so it's like it feels like the RPG can actually happen in the game in the books.
Yeah. Um, and then back to the panel, they showed us, some new adversaries we're getting, like a Khandra Defender and a Khandra Spy. A cool thing I saw on the Khandra stat blocks is there was a very clear note for one of their attacks, which was strike, comma, revolver, and it had a little note that said era 2. So, if you want to use a Khandra in era 1, obviously ignore the revolver because they don't exist yet.
Right.
But there's a nice little note for you. Hey, this is an era 2 thing. There was some great art of 3 villains that are going to be in the adventure coming up. Lysara, Quilliam, and Bayron. Obviously, as usual, very good art, very hot villains. Lysara was sort of like how I just like sort of a Black Widow, femme fatale. She's gonna mess you up. Like she seems vicious. This Quilliam guy, he was very like trust fund kid, fail son, sort of like playboy looking. And then Bayron, Johnny specifically described him as I think Zuckerberg, but what was it?
I think you said like Zuckerberg if he took steroids or something like that.
No, he didn't say steroids. It was like Zuckerberg, and then it was something about the time period. But either way, he's supposed to be like a tech mogul, but in the like sort of 1930s.
Okay.
So I guess like what you call it, a Rockefeller.
Oh, okay.
That might be a little later than Rockefeller, but like either way, that's sort of like he's an entrepreneur. He's made a lot of money. That's the like sort of gist you get from him. And then they did an actual play of a truncated version of Chapter 7 called Striking the Anvil. And unfortunately, we missed the actual play. We caught like the very last sentence of it to say hi to some of the people we talked to.
Yeah.
And then let me see, because I have pictures, and I want to see if anything escaped my notes while I was taking pictures. Okay, so this is a like note of things from their presentation. There are going to be Khandra and Kolos blooded ancestries, so you'll be able to play a Khandra, which is really cool. We didn't see anything about that other than this little tagline. New metalborn paths, metallic arts, talent trees for every known elementic and ferrochemical metal. So that's 16 times 2, 32 metals. Yeah. The adventure is going to be very epic and era spanning. They did confirm that you will play both eras,
Nice.
which is really neat. I'm excited to see how they do that.
Yeah, and especially like because so much of the art and so much of the reveals have been about Era 2, like as the Era 1 stan that I am, that makes me very happy.
Yeah. Oh, and they ended the Mistborn section with this sort of like set of questions that were on the screen. What is the Eternity Spike? Who are the Gilded Few? And what will your legacy be? So if people want to theorize about that in the comments, feel free to do so. I know Eternity Spike. They did confirm in the panel that hemalurgy is going to be a focus. There was sort of a piece of art that they kind of trigger warninged. So I assume Spike, hemalurgy. Don't know who the Gilded Few are, and then the adventure is called Mistborn Legacy. So I assume that idea of legacy is going to be very important.
Right.
Just going off words there.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
The other thing that I don't know how much they talked about it at Nexus, but like in the week after, like because we're coming up on it was a week since I got there. Like they've started really making a push for Plot Weaver. Did they give a date on that during the panel at all, or like allude to when we might
No.
see it? Okay.
They were very specific to not give us dates. In fact, they even showed like, hey, we have a Nalthis setting book or like setting idea coming. We have World Hopper and we have Warbreaker. I think that was the order they showed them in, but they also said, hey, this order is not set in stone. It's very dependent on whatever Brandon wants to do. So at the current moment, we truly do not know what the next thing is from them.
Yeah. Which,
Is
hey,
kind of my understanding.
I'm alright with that because like Mistborn will definitely be enough to keep us busy once it finally comes out. Um, we still have some time that we got to get more Stormlight plays in because I want to finish Stonewalkers before Mistborn comes out, so I can dive right into that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited. Like, I can't wait to show my IRL play group like Mistborn stuff and see just like which one gets their interest. I'll probably end up doing like World Hopper stuff much before that book ever comes out.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is gonna like I honestly think that a lot of the average players will like vibe with Mistborn really quickly because it has more Earth-like technology. Like there's some definitely some creatures that you're gonna see like Chondra, like Colossus Blood that aren't in Earth, but like with Rashar, you do have that jump in of like there's a bunch of crab creature things and like there's the singers and it's like you I'm not saying you can't like Welcome to Rashard does a good job of like laying out the world for you really quickly, but it's like people can look at Mistborn Air 2 and be like, oh, I know what that is. Like urban fantasy, got it. And just start
Yeah.
rolling. So I think the ramp up will be a lot faster for some players that aren't familiar with Brandon's works. But yeah, like I wish I could have gone to that panel, but like I said, I mean, people were speaking ideals at my table at the time.
Yeah, it was a very cool panel. I should have taken better notes. Now going through my notes, I'm just like, oh man, I missed so many things that like I don't 100% remember, so I don't feel like I want to talk about them. But the things I did take, I am very excited about. Uh, I do have
Yeah.
pictures of the warrior trees and the hunter ones, and the misting tree and the uh, tin allomancy one. So I think maybe in a future episode we'll do like a dive into those.
Yeah, absolutely.
uh, I did, we had other Allomancers and Metallic Arts people in the Petals to the Metal adventure. I believe there was a Zinc Fairing.
Yeah, there was a
Uh,
zinc fairing. I want to say there was some chromium out there.
yes, there was a
Um,
Chromium Fairing, and then there
you
was an Iron Allomancer and a Zinc Allomancer. Those were the four.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because then the other player was like an investigator and then one was like a lead. So you
Agent.
got
Agent and a
agent, that's what it
Warrior,
was.
actually.
Yeah, so you got to see some like in that adventure you got to see a little bit of how those would play. Yeah.
Yeah, and it
The
was very much like they didn't have much talent investment into them. We did get to read the base like Surge or not Surge, but
like what happens
I
if
don't,
you tap the metal or
yeah,
tap the
tap, burn, store. Uh,
yeah.
I think a cool thing I noticed, and like I don't know how I feel about this. I've been thinking about it ever since I saw it. To drink a metal vial is one action, but to breathe stormlight is two.
Yeah, I think that so I want to
I want to. I mean, we should ask someone about that, but I
for
I
sure
haven't.
like
Yeah.
I we were so it's funny like that you mentioned that because that actually was a topic of conversation while we were all getting ready to run it the first time I was running. If I had to guess, like when you breathe something in, like one like when Kaladin jumps the chasm and he lands in front of all the Parshendi and they've got the gems in their beards, like it's gonna take time for that stormlight to leave the gem, get through Kaladin, let him breathe it in, get into his lungs, go through his bloodstream. Whereas drinking a vial, like I feel like a Metalborn is just ready to go, has the vial, and it's immediately in their stomach ready to eat. Like so, in my head it
I
goes
disagree with
faster.
like that. No.
Well,
I
because you
think
can
that's the
pull,
opposite. You breathe in and it's there immediately. You have to like it has to go through your throat to get to your stomach.
yeah, but it's got to travel. Like I feel like a
Yeah.
Mistborn is like a lot more readily avail, like a lot like what's the word I'm trying to use? They're more ready to drink that. Whereas like I'm gonna have to look around. Where do I have spheres? Where can I get some from?
Yeah.
Whereas like Metalborn's gonna be like, I got a vial right here in my pocket. Like
I
boom.
guess that's fair. Maybe and maybe this is a thing and I'm just an idiot. Maybe there should have been like a talent or like when you get a certain like phase in your bond that breathing stormlight becomes quicker.
I don't think there is, but I could be wrong. Because I'm not going to pretend like I have any of that memorized.
Oh, yeah, no. And important side note, no one should have this stuff memorized. If you do, why?
Yeah.
Uh, like, that's a lot of work for you, guy.
For
Like, you
sure.
don't need to memorize this stuff. You're not working on it. And speaking of someone who is working on it, we had an interview that
Yeah,
we
we
did.
did. And it is recorded, so I can finally talk about it.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
recorded. It's not going away.
I have even edited it. We just
You
haven't
have?
published it yet. Yeah, it is edited and ready to go. I just need to
Ooh.
upload it to the server. So yeah, we got to sit down and interview Ross Leiser, one of the designers. He's not the lead designer, but he's one of the main designers of
Oh,
the.
let me open up the Stormlight handbook and check his actual title because it's there.
Yeah, let's see, and I think I've got it here too. I think he's a senior designer, is what
I
the
think
title is.
yeah, senior designer. He's the only senior designer.
I think so, because then the lead designers are Lydia and Andrew Fisher, which we got to meet both of them too. Like we got to meet so much of the Brotherwise team. Like we got to meet
Yeah, that
Mariko.
was very cool.
Like we got to meet
We're
Lalo
awesome.
Fujiwara. We got to meet
It just
Merrick
says
Moyer.
rules designers, but
Yeah. I
he
mean
has an
Johnny
actual title.
Fields.
He told it to us.
Yeah. So we will have that when that episode is ready to come out.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
we got to sit
that's
down.
super
God,
exciting.
what did we do? Spend an hour and a half with Ross, which he was very gracious with his time.
Yeah, it ended up not being like. I'm sorry, folks. I spent some time off mic talking to him about Magic: The Gathering and
Oh,
assigning Knights Radiant to colors, and that is not in the podcast, but that is part of the time we spent with him.
absolutely. But that is perfectly okay because he has already said he would be more than happy to come back on. So
We can
we'll
have
get.
that great debate together.
Oh yeah, I'll do an episode where you guys just do that, and I just sit back and eat popcorn because I have no idea what's happening. So yeah, there's a couple of these interviews because if we ever get Andrew on mic, you and him will have a blast talking about the Star Wars Genesis system, which I know zero
Well,
about as well.
so the system is Genesis. It's Genesis RPG, but Star Wars RPG by FFG and now Edge Studios uses that system.
Which
So
shows you how little I know about it.
yeah,
Uh,
and like I just described it, it's a little convoluted. But
that's all good.
yeah, he was saying because we did talk to him about maybe doing an interview that he worked more like on the Genesis stuff. So it'll be interesting to talk about.
For sure. So yeah, we've definitely got some stuff coming up with that. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else from our Nexus experience you want to go over? This has very much just been us spitballing and just geeking out about how much fun we had at
Yeah,
Nexus.
yeah. I mean, we're talking about Nexus, which is cool. I think that we definitely should like do an episode and a more full one talking about like GMing for Nexus because I think some of our listeners might be interested in doing that. In fact, we do have one listener who said he was a big fan, who was there GMing with us. His name is Carson. I don't know his
Yep,
last name. I'm not going to say it online, but thank you so much for listening, dude. This shout out is just like it's super cool that you told us you like the show, and we appreciate that a lot, man. So hopefully
absolutely.
you hear this, even though you were there at Nexus. You don't need to watch this episode. Um,
And just to give you guys a sneak peek into some of the episodes we do have coming up, I'm not going to give a timeline on any of these, but we have other interviews lined up. We have other people that said they'll interview. I don't want to give their names out in case, like, hey, scheduling's a thing. But we're going to have some interviews with some people that have played the RPG recently that are in the Cosmere, like social media sphere. Hopefully, some more Brotherwise employees as well. We got to make a ton of connections there, and we'll get to talk to some of them soon. We are talking about interviewing some of the other GMs from that were there at Nexus just to get some of their thoughts on running at conventions. We're going to do some character build episodes and then interview the Shard of Opportunity players and GMs, hopefully.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was super cool to get to meet all of them in person finally.
yes,
Uh, I just can't wait to do that. I say, obviously we don't have too many tales from our own personal tables this week, but we could talk a little bit about our tables at Nexus. And so I want to ask you, Kyle, what was your favorite moment at your table across the? So what you GM'd 3 sessions, and then you did Epic Stormlight, which was kind of like a big double session.
yes. So I would say it happened at multiple sessions. I don't have a specific like Oh man, this particular adventure stood out. But I would say there was one person that, you know what's funny? Actually, I do have a favorite moment. And the weird thing is, it had nothing, like none of us as players were interacting. There was a part of the Epic Stormlight adventure where you break out of a village, you're trying to go rescue someone, and I don't care to share this moment because it's so cool. Your goal for my group was there were some villagers that needed help. They needed brought back to a keep before the Singer forces were attacking, and you find a lady standing on the edge of a cliff being taunted and poked at by a devastating one, and she is standing on a cliff's edge where the like adventure even tells you like she's going to lose her footing. It is going to crumble if anyone else's weight is on there. And it's a lady standing with a spear with two people behind her. And the endeavor that you're running is you all are giving her encouragement to help ward off the devastating one to try to let her escape. And as you do, when you succeed on the endeavor, she speaks the first ideal at that moment to protect her siblings. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Okay,
And like
so the NPC speaks the ideal?
the NPC speaks the
Ooh,
ideal through
okay.
so you all encourage
The GM
her.
gets to speak.
So the GM gets to speak it, and I barely made it through without crying, because it was like so well written, and it's literally her swearing the first ideal of the Windrunners to protect her siblings, and it was so cool because you're so caught up in it's at the end of the first act of that story, and you're just so caught up in like we're trying to stop all these singers and go save these villagers, and it's just this cool intimate moment where you get to see where the Knights Radiant can inspire someone else to be greater. And like it just hit like that's how Act One ended for us, and like you could see all of us just kind of, and it was so cool to be a part of and to see the players who none of them were the center of the scene get so excited about it. Yeah, that really hit home, man. It was just
Dude,
a
you
really cool
sound
moment.
jazz. That's so cool.
I need to look up who the writer was from Brotherwise because Brotherwise Games did write the adventure. Man, it hit so
It was
hard.
pretty killer. I
Yeah.
mean, I
What about
think they
you?
mentioned they want to publish it
Oh yeah, yeah.
eventually.
They said the plan is to publish it. But like I think it'll obviously it's not going to be set up to play with 400 people because that'd be kind of wild.
Yeah, that
Uh,
would be crazy.
yeah.
Oh gosh. So, do I want to? You know, it's a question of like if I want to leave Roshar or not. I think I'm gonna cheat, and I'm gonna from like both the types of games I played. Um, One is my first session of Speak the Words. Uh, there's this like portion where they try to force you to choose one option or another, and this group it did something I'd never seen someone try to do before, and they're like, well, why don't we just do both? Like, not both at the same time, but like they combined the options in a cool way.
Hmm.
And, you know, it necessitated a lot of improvisation on my part. Basically, they said they were doing that, and I ignored the adventure book.
Nice.
Because I was like, well, shoot, this isn't accounted for in here. I'm going to set this to the side and just sort of like improv. And they all had so much fun. Uh, and like I made it tense for them because like they obviously did something that raised the stakes. You know, they did roll some plot dice, but that wasn't just the scenario. And I really got to like flex my DM chops in a way that felt really rewarding and was cool. And then for my pedals to the metal group, one of them, this gentleman, he was there with his son. I know his name, but I'm not going to say it. And clearly, he had never played an RPG before, but he was such a fan of the material that he pretty much flawlessly was able to role play a character.
Nice.
He was playing the Zinc Allomancer, the Rioter, and he just like there weren't a bunch of hard and fast rules on the sheet for what he wanted to do all the time, but he described them and like have these ideas, and I'm just like, you know what, dude, absolutely. And they also did some unexpected stuff, but since that adventure is newer, I don't want to spoil anything.
Right.
Uh, and it was just so impressive that this gentleman, like, one, he was so into the play of role playing and like doing the character, but like also thinking about it from a world perspective. And he didn't have any problem, I'd tell him like, hey, roll this, and he would like. Sometimes he needed to be told which dice he was supposed to roll, but like that's nothing. That's easy, and it was so cool, like to see him like accept and then also plan around like the dice results when they happened. And yeah, it's just like that. Those sort of things give me the juice as a DM, where I'm just like, oh, sweet, I could do this all day. This was exciting and awesome.
Yeah.
I did let that table in because we were talking about like common DM things. Never describe things to your players in a size that you don't want. You know, if you would refer to something in a way, imagine that they're going to start describing everything by that metric. So if you ever describe a cauldron as big enough to fit two toddlers because it's in a witch's cottage and you really want to lay on the hints, understand that everything will be measured in toddlers. Uh, and I like you know, one of the guys playing was a former GM or like GMs at home, and he mentioned like players purposely misconstruing things are like a common ask, and I brought up the toddler thing, and so like they started being like, yeah, so in terms of toddlers, how big is this box? Uh, and it's just like, oh gosh darn it, I let it happen again. Everything's
that's
toddlers, and I don't
that's
have
great.
kids. I don't. So, yeah, I think that was probably those I cheated. Those were the two most exciting things. And when we talk about speak the words proper, when we actually like do some spoilery stuff, I'll mention the unexpected path they took
Yeah,
for
because
that session.
I had one as well, not as much as that, but it was very much a no, we're going to go on this path because I and they had a very good role play reason just to almost completely ignore one path. So yeah, we'll definitely go over that when we speak a little more in spoiler as far as that adventure. Because that adventure
Yeah,
has been published since oh gosh, September 1st, I think. So like there's people and it's like we said, it's a very short adventure. It's out on YouTube.
yeah.
You can
It's
actually
published. It's been played.
you can actually see one of our buddies from Nexus, Doc, run it for some Cosmere content creators and some of the Foundry team on YouTube. So plug for the Foundry demo of Speak the Words that's out on YouTube. So
Yeah. Uh, but I think that has been all from us, folks. And I want you to remember this episode is brought to you by Fat Baby Hot Sauce. If you need something to spice up your meal, go to Fat Baby. No, we're not sponsored by them, and I don't actually know if any of you outside of Michigan could have heard of them, but they do make a good hot sauce. So,
hey,
Kyle,
I'm always going to be recommending food if you can find it. This episode has been.
absolutely.
I'll even throw my first one out because this episode has been brought to you by pepperoni rolls, brought all the way from West Virginia to
Oh, they
Utah.
were so good. Ugh.
Dude,
And
it
Kyle, take us
sounds.
away, buddy.
I will. All right, so let's roll our plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.